Welcome everybody back to Conversation with Carroll. I'm your host Nolan Carroll, and I'm here with an icon, somebody that is coming to the studio to bless me with her conversation. I'm welcoming Carmit Bachar, member of the Pussycat Dolls. Thank you for coming on and joining me to
Thank you
Conversation with
so
Carroll.
much for having me
Definitely.
and to finally meet you.
I know, right? We've been talking for what? Probably 2-3 years since you've been with Matt.
Yeah,
I think
well,
it's been
a little
through
over
conversation.
yes,
Yeah,
for
through
sure.
conversation. We've
And I've
always seen each other.
seen you do your thing and much respect
Same here.
and I love what you're about, and every move that you make is just really well thought out and there's purpose to it,
Yes.
and I appreciate you doing this and I'm glad to be here.
Well, thank you. You're a motivation as well, too. You've been doing it longer than I have, and you've been doing it on a bigger stage. So you're definitely motivation, even though different gender, it doesn't matter. You're in a different field, but you're still at the top. And for me, that's commendable because when I see things like that, it motivates me. And one of the things that I'm always looking to do is strive to be better and always looking for somebody to persevere in different situations that they've gone through. And I wanted to talk to you about that because right when you were born, you were hit with adversity. And I want you to talk about that a little bit because people that do have disabilities or have unfair situations that come about that's out of their control, they kind of let it control them. They let it hinder them, and you were able to overcome that. So could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because most people know me from the Pussycat Dolls. So what they see of the group is very image based
Yeah.
and aesthetic, and there's hair and makeup. And so there's a lot of, things that you might not see or glance over. And
Yeah.
I was born with the third most common birth defect, cleft lip and cleft palate. So right out the gate, probably a lot of people probably wouldn't have thought that I would have gone into an industry that's kind of based around image
Yeah.
and whatnot. But performance is a passion of mine, and my parents were both in the industry. So I grew up around it. I grew up around people who didn't judge you for your looks or something. And so when growing up, of course, kids can be brutally honest. And I was having a lot of cosmetic surgery, not cosmetic, like medical surgery, not cosmetic. It's funny now because like cosmetic surgery is such a hot topic, and I'm like actually scared of it because I've had so much of it, and being in the hospital at a young age just kind of, it's the last thing that I really want to do, but it's actually an interesting topic for young girls now, which is mind blowing, but that's another conversation.
But it's, well, I don't want to call it funny, but it's just inspirational because for your parents, it was one of those things where it was, you don't want anything to happen to your child. And I'm a parent, you're a parent. And the last thing you want is for something out of your control to happen to your kid that you can't do. And for your parents, I know that was difficult for them to always be around, always support you, always pray for you. So for them, how was it, were you ever able to go back and talk to them about what that was like for them, experiencing that for their young kid?
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that. For me, I know when I was pregnant with my daughter, I was terrified that I would have a child born with cleft lip and cleft palate, and that would be something that I was out of control, that was out of my control. And I had a lot of fear based actually around my birth with her. And I'm so grateful that she didn't have to go through what I went through. But also, everybody has their own journeys, and they're all going to have their own story and something to overcome. I mean, it's part of life, obviously. Nothing is perfect and all roses. But it's funny that you asked that question because I have spoken to my parents about what their experience was. And I know that neither of them had ever even heard of this before. Cleft was not something that was like in their vocabulary, or even, they had no idea what it was. And I think they were a little scared. And then you just kind of, as a parent, you do whatever you have to do and take your child to every hospital appointment and surgery and be there for them and comfort them and care for them and wish them as least possible strife and pain, that can be in the situation, given the circumstances. So my parents were amazing, and they showered me with affection and encouraged me into performance and just what made me light up, which was dancing and singing and performing and just having fun. And I watched them on stage a lot. They did movies and commercials, and my mom modeled. My dad danced with Elvis, and he was on Broadway. And so I saw them from the wings, and I was always like, "Oh, this is so cool," and so that was something that it was innate for me to kind of go into that direction, and they supported me. I'm
Yeah,
so grateful for that too.
that's good. I also want to bring that up because there's a little hidden fact that people don't know about you. You were a gymnast.
Yeah.
You were a gymnast though, but you qualified for the Olympics. Since the Olympics is going on now, and I
Yeah.
saw that, I was like, oh wow. So that's just interesting, that whole dynamic of all of that, and you end up branching into that, and then you end up creating what you're doing now. Just kind of talk to me about all how that came to light.
Well, yeah, I was immersed in, I think, everything I could possibly do growing up. I was in a theater group, and I also did gymnastics. Started at 5, and then I saw rhythmic gymnastics in the Olympics, and I was blown away because it was sort of a combination of dance
Yeah.
with a piece of equipment and gymnastics, and I tried it and I was instantly in love with it, and I started competing like that year because I already had a base in dance. So it kind of went hand in hand, and I competed for 9 years internationally. I was national team. I went to world championships with group, like Pan Am games, like a bunch of different games, and then I competed all over, really. I had an incredible career. And then Olympic trials, I was 5th, which they only take the top 2.
That's still good. I don't care who you are. It's still good.
Yeah, and it was an amazing experience. I mean, it really taught me discipline. It taught me everything I needed to know about my body and how to take care of myself. And that was my foundation for my dance career, because when I transitioned, which is ironic, right? As a gymnast, I retired at 19.
That is young.
You're old.
Yeah.
Like, you're old.
Considered in that sport, yeah.
Exactly. So, and then I started working professionally as a dancer, and my little trick of the trade was not just tumbling, which I could tumble as well, but was, what's your specialty? And I'd pull hoops and ribbons and clubs out my trunk. Everybody knew that. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
And that kind of set the tone for me in the industry. It was something that was like my little niche. And I've been working commercially ever since, So it's been a blessing, and I've had this great career, and everything has kind of led to the next piece of where I am. And now it's crazy because, like the Pussycat Dolls was part of my identity for so long in my career, and then it just kind of came back around.
Yeah.
But I also have a daughter now, so the experience is completely different. And I'm just really grateful,
That's cool. So since you touched on that being a part of the Pussycat Dolls, there was a point in time where you branched off. You wanted to do your own thing, be independent. And I've been there. I'm still going through that now. How, for you, first of all, being courageous like that, because you're known in this group, and all of a sudden you tell yourself, there's something more that I want to do. I want to go and venture out and do it. And you became brave enough to do that. And I know there was a bunch of people that questioned, like, why is she doing this? But you decided to take on that task and that risk. And talk to me about that, because I thought that was interesting. And there's been a couple interviews that I saw, and you'd mentioned it, but I don't know, for me, when I hear people speak about what they want to do, it's the tone in their voice. And you seem so confident that you wanted to do it and nobody was going to deter you from it. I thought that was just interesting, just from the interviews that I heard. So for me and the viewers, talk about just taking that risk and going out on a limb and believing in yourself.
I think, well, it's interesting because there's like a curse and a blessing being in a group, right?
It is, yeah.
People know the group. They might not know who you are individually. People knew me as the redhead, I think, mostly. They might not know my name.
Yeah.
My name is Carmit.
Carmit.
Yeah, a lot of people say Carmit because it's spelled like that, but it's a Hebrew name, so it looks like Carmit, but it's Carmit. So even when we were on tour, like the girls, we'd have fans come up and be like, "Oh my God, Carmit," and the girls would be like, "It's Carmit," It's like a joke, but it's. I mean, honestly, it's an amazing experience. I love the group and the energy, the synergy that we have as a group. That's magical. Like, sometimes it just hits, and sometimes for certain groups it doesn't. You know what I mean? And we were fortunate enough to have all those things line up, timing. But also, we'd had a history. I was an original member of the Pussycat Dolls, so there was 8 years prior to us getting the record deal,
Yeah.
and then it having another life, another chapter of the
Yeah.
Dolls, which was sort of a, pop group, universal, global thing, which
Yeah.
blew our minds. The potential, to have that kind of success was there. Obviously, always a dream of mine,
Yeah.
but like that doesn't happen for everybody. So
Yeah.
I know that that's something that's pretty cool. But I also have always been an individual. I've always had my own thing. I've always been pretty clear about who I am, and everybody has their own story.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes in a group that gets lost
Yeah.
too. And so I wanted to share that. And I think that it's important for everybody to be heard and have a voice and tell their story, because it impacts everybody in a different way. So that's also what's cool about within being in a group, is because there's somebody for everybody to relate to.
Yeah.
But also in a group, there's usually one person that kind of maybe is in the forefront that a lot of times overshadows the other situation. And I think in the group, there was a sentiment of that there wasn't an equal amount of time for everybody to be heard.
Yeah.
And there still is that, as a matter of fact, and it's unfortunate, but it happens.
Yeah.
But everybody is their own individual and
Exactly.
has something to say, something important.
Yeah.
And so that's always been important for me. I think we as a group would be stronger if everybody really had their individual stories heard. To come back together, it's like we all have had struggles that we've overcome to be the women who we are today. So
It just didn't happen overnight.
no, nothing
Yeah,
happens
no,
overnight.
That's what I'm saying. Everybody
Yeah.
thinks that, and just
Yeah.
from just being relatable from a team where I was in the NFL
Yes.
to you being in a group, I understand
Yeah.
the aspect of a team, but not everybody gets it because they only see the finished product. They only see what's performing, what's on the music videos. Just like they
Right.
only see what's on the field. They don't get to see where these people have come from, individuals that have had to scrape, work harder than everybody else just to put on an NFL helmet. Just like
Exactly.
there's probably millions of other women that wanted your spot,
Oh yeah.
but you
Sure.
were able to do more than them, and opportunity and hard work meet each other, and that's how you get success. And I think that's all relative, and just to see what, I respect you, just to see what you've been able to accomplish and do it consistently. It's not just
Thank
something
you.
that has only been for a year. You've been doing this for a long time. I remember Buttons. That's for real. I do. That was a song I remember. Man, this is cool. But it's funny just to honestly sit down here and just talk with you about all these things. But I want to bring it back to your daughter first of all, because when you, I want to say quote unquote kind of retired, not really, she was able to come back, and similar to my son, me retiring, he's able to see what I've done, that track record. And
Yes.
it's funny because your kids end up having an interest in what you do, and they end up following you and tracking you more, and you end up reliving what you had went through because it's such a blur.
Yeah.
And I know you especially, it's been
Yeah.
a blur for a while, but to go back and relive it and really see the experiences that you had and been able to touch millions. Can you talk about how it is from your daughter's eyes to ask you questions about your experiences and what you did in the group and what you did as an individual? How has that been to give that give back of an experience to somebody that you birthed, that you're always around 24/7?
That's a great question. It's such a blessing to have a child because they sort of give you like a refresh on life. We have experiences that kind of mold us along the way, and then not everybody becomes jaded, but it sort of shapes our world, right? Our limitations or the things that have maybe kind of, they can close off opportunity or possibilities. And we may not even notice it. We may not see how that has shaped our view of the world or how we make decisions in our life. And they are like a new lease on life. Everything is new. Everything is magical to them. And what you do is the coolest, and it's like, you're like, oh yeah, it's kind of cool, right? It's kind of like, this is really, it's fun. And when she was younger, she didn't really get it. I remember we used to play videos for her and she was like, and walk away. I was like, okay, well, I'm like, let's be, it was Okay, so anyways. But, you know, now she gets it.
Yeah.
And she's like, wow, my mom's in the Pussycat
She
Dolls.
sees the
And,
magnitude of
like,
it.
she even auditions for stuff, too. And one time when we went up for an audition for her, and she's like, my mom's a Pussycat Doll. I was like, baby, this is about you, but I love you. Thank you. Matt's my publicist. But,
That got free PR right there.
right, he's right there.
Yeah.
But no, it's really a blessing to share it with her. And when we did the reunion on X Factor, our first show in London, they came and she was in the audience. My family came and she ran up to me after the performance. She was like, "Mommy, you did so good. You were amazing. You were the most clothed." I was like, I can't. She's, you know, very observant, and
cool.
and it's important to show our girls, especially for me, to show my girl that she can do anything and be anything. And obviously, I don't wear those kind of clothes when I go pick her up at school,
Yeah.
you know, that
So
I
the-
wear on
yeah.
stage. But there's it's just an opportunity to really show them that anything is possible if you want to do it. And she's very artistic. She's actually gone into animation,
Like
you
that.
know. But I try to keep her options open and show her and teach her everything and take classes. And because you never know what road they're going to go down. You never know what they're going to have an affinity to. And I want to do what my mom did for me, which is just expose me to everything.
Exactly.
This is when they're just like this open vessel,
Yeah.
and they can absorb all the light and
Yeah.
all the energy and all the good stuff. Because, you know, as we get older, we're like, nah, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Nah, I'm not good at that. No, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, you
exactly.
just, it's very interesting to have a new lease on life.
I
with
like that.
them.
I like that because there's a lot of parents that force their kids.
Right.
And they end up hating it, and then those kids find out, well, this is what I want to do instead, and I see that. I get that. I respect that because we live in a day and age where we need to expose our kids to everything possible,
Yeah.
but teach them our experiences to help them not make the same mistakes that we did too. So that's, I think, is important, like I said.
It's a balance, though, because you learn surrender.
Yeah.
The lesson is surrender because they are their own people, or they are their own person,
yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah.
So we know that, you know, our parents were like, oh, you should do this. This is what, you know, because they want to protect you and they want to guide you. But your life is completely different than theirs and the things that they went through in their generation, and vice versa. Same thing with our kids,
Yeah.
you know? So their world is completely different starting point, you know?
Yeah.
Like my daughter's like, what's that? I'm like, it's a payphone, you know? What's that? It's a cassette tape. It's a, you know, there's just no, the reference is completely different.
Yeah.
So I think it's really cool to kind of be able to guide them, but then allow them to kind of figure it out and search for themselves, you know. So it's
Because you don't ever want to put pressure on her to be like you.
no,
Because that's a big feat.
it is.
It's big, and I experience the same way. I try and let him do what he wants to do. He just wants to, if he wants to code all day, you can go ahead and code all day. You want to play football, we'll play football. You want to play soccer, we'll play soccer. So I get it. I understand that. So I respect you as a mom. I do. Because that was, for me, that makes me comfortable to know that I'm on the right path with my own kid to make sure that he's right and he can do what he wants to do. So that's good. Now I want to get back into your career, back into it again. Now we're in the modern day, we're in the present. So during 2020, so I'll go back in the past real quick. 2020, or really 2019, you guys got back together, and you're about to go on a tour.
Yes.
COVID happened.
Yeah.
Explain to me during COVID what you did to kind of pivot, because you did drop a few singles too, but then at the same time, it was all this uncertainty of you trying to get back together, get on tour, and then there was all this uncertainty of what to happen next. So kind of run me through what you had to do to really figure out what you wanted to do next.
That's a loaded question for me.
I know it is. I do that a lot on this
No,
show.
that's
Yeah.
good. It's good. I think everybody had a like crazy year, obviously. 2020 just brought up so much stuff, good and bad. Some people thrived, some people just like fell off,
Yeah.
you know. And the real test was, how do you how do you transform?
Exactly.
You know, we all had to. We were just like faced with like this abrupt stop in life, whether it was your career, whether it was, you know, just things that mattered to you, that were important to you, whether you were stuck with your family and relationships and dynamics. Like there were so many levels to it. I had a health crisis, and it was pretty intense because it took me down like a rabbit hole that was the darkest, deepest that I've ever been through in my life. And we've all been through some stuff, right? But it was one of those things, like even now when I'm like thinking about it, I get like a little watery eyed. And it was scary. And I think that, just trusting that the universe is giving you what you need to bring you to that next place in your life so that you can evolve, so that you can step up to the plate, because otherwise you'll be stuck. And it was really challenging. It was a lot for me. So also when you equate yourself or validate yourself with your work is another thing. I know we all like to be busy, we all like to be active, and I know, and then we're talking about our kids, it's like teaching them discipline and teaching them structure is important, because that is how we thrive, right? How we can kind of make sure that we're staying in the zone, if you will. But life is not like that. Life happens, and you will fall off, and then you fall back on, and you know when you're off, and you know when you're on. And it's just about recognizing and acknowledging that, and kind of being like, okay, I'm not there right now, but I'm working towards that. And putting in that work, like you always say, will make you feel like, I earned this, and this is why I'm here, and this is why I deserve this. And you also feel confident in that. So that's why I think this younger generation with the instant gratification and all this like quick, stuff is also a scary journey as well, because there's no real foundation to have earned what they self-proclaim themselves to be. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's all journey, and 2020 was definitely that for me as well. But I feel stronger than ever. I feel more empowered. I feel like I've definitely turned the corner. So that feels good. That's important to me. And it was hard because my family supported me as well. But my daughter, saw me go through that, and she was like, "Mommy, you're going to be okay." And I'm like, I will be, and she was with me through it all. And I'm so grateful for that love and support. And that's what pulled me through for sure.
That's a strong message.
Yeah.
I like that.
It was deep.
I like it. No, I do. Everything you just said, I love it. I do. So for you, going through that, overcoming that, you've overcome so much in your life. What is next for you as an individual?
I like the idea of that I'm open to whatever will happen next, instead of trying to plan so much. Because I feel like in the industry and how fast things turn over, we tend to not be in the present because we're planning so much for what's coming. I got to do this so I can do ready for this. And which to a certain degree, you have to do certain things like that. Yes, especially with kids, you got to make plans, you got to schedule everything, right? But at the end of the day, there's a certain amount of like relaxing into the flow that feels better for me right now. Like when I find myself holding my body and I'm like, oh, okay, breathe, like take a full deep breath, like connect back with my breath, which we all know. It doesn't mean we do it. And so it's just about kind of falling back into the present moment sometimes, because I can go like a beast, and I realize I've been going like that my entire life. Nothing wrong with that. We all have achieved what we achieve, given that kind of motivation and that kind of, desire to kind of be so active and proactive in our career and our life, and it's great. However, I also want to learn how to chill, if you will. Sometimes it's like, to teach my daughter not to always like be on the go all the time. So there's important lessons in everything and all of those things. But so it's like when you go on a vacation, and some people have planned things for every day of their vacation, and now I'm like, I'm going to plan we do nothing today because we're going to do whatever we want that
Yeah.
day. You know what I mean? And then you'll fall into something really cool.
Exactly.
It always happens like that. So
Just enjoying life.
there it
That's
is.
what we need to do, is just enjoy life, live in the moment, and be fine with it, whatever happens.
Exactly.
You can't control the outcome.
No, that's the worst.
Yeah.
You know, things will happen that you don't plan. And if you get stuck on that or dwell in that, you'll be like, why did that happen? That's where anxiety comes from.
Oh, yeah.
That is what anxiety is. Questioning why this, why that, thinking about stuff too much. So it's like, that's been the lesson actually about 2020. Because I had mad anxiety. And it was just like kind of coming back to myself and going, trusting in the universe that everything is as it should be. And life is happening for me, not at me.
Yeah. Trust in the process. You said everything that is strong. You've probably been the strongest one so far. And I appreciate you coming on. Like I said, you've been an icon.
Thank you.
Somebody that now just talking to you person to person,
Yeah.
you're a very strong individual. And
I feel the same about you. And everything that I've seen, I'm just like, yeah, we're on the same page.
I'm catching up to you.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm catching up to you. Eventually I'll get there, but
No, what are you talking about? You wrote a book on it.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, just to hear more of your life, you opening up to me, I definitely appreciate that. And the stuff to come, I'm very excited to see what you've been doing. You've been on a hot streak, and it's just fun to see it from afar. I'm a bigger fan now than I was before. I definitely appreciate you coming on the show and blessing me with all the experience and the knowledge, and I thank you again.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Appreciate you and respect you, and you're on a streak too. So let's just be honest.
That guy over there.
Yes, and we got to keep that. That's really what it's about. What I love is just connecting with people that are like-minded, that are all evolving, coming up, supporting each other, raising the vibration, and that's really what it's about. And that's the lesson that I take away from what has happened this past 2020. Not just the pandemic, but spiritually, mentally, us coming together in the way that we genuinely, authentically support each other, because when one person thrives, together we all thrive.
Strong message. You guys heard it here on Conversation with Carol. I'm with the icon again, Carmit Bachar. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed this podcast episode. My book, It's Up to You. It's out now. Go ahead and click the link in the description.